Hey guys, this is Ankit and welcome to the Google Cloud Platform Task Series. We are doing a list of basic tasks to get ourselves familiar with Google Cloud Provider, that is GCP. We're following the DevOps Engineer and SRE learning path, also available at cloudskillsboost.google/paths. You can always refer to my repository, thecloudterminal01/learn-devops to get more details. For today's task, we have the following objectives. We will navigate Google Cloud and explore Anthos clusters from the Google Cloud console. We will perform east-west cross-cluster traffic routing. We will observe distributed services, view matrices, set up SLOs, and investigate network topology. Finally, we will use Anthos Service Mesh Dashboards to verify security and encryption configuration. The total amount of time we will be spending will be around 9 to 12 minutes. So let's begin. Let's move on to our first subtask. This is the infrastructure diagram of the infra that is already created when we enter into the lab. Over here we have two GKE clusters. They are present in US Central 1 and US West 2, and Anthos Service Mesh has been configured across these clusters to provide cross-cluster service discoverability and secure routing, so that a microservice pod running on GKE Central can seamlessly communicate with pods running on GKE West. Additionally, the Bank of Anthos application has been deployed across these two clusters as shown in this diagram. So let's move on to our lab and have a look at the Kubernetes clusters. So we will go to Kubernetes engine and clusters section. So over here we have two Kubernetes clusters. One is in US Central 1A and the other one is in US West 2A. If we go to workload section, we see that our applications are running in both the clusters. For example, balance reader microservice is running in GKE Central and it is also running in GKE West. The databases, on the other hand, like accounts DB and ledger DB, are only running in GKE West. Let's go to services and ingress section. Over here we see that these are the corresponding services, and this is our external load balancer type of service. We can click on them and visit the application. So let's visit this one first. This is our Bank of Anthos application. We can sign in. And we are logged in. We can do some activity over here as well. Let's deposit some funds. Let's deposit, let's say $10 deposit. Let's go back. One thing which you should note over here is that we have created load balancer type of service in both the clusters, GKE Central and GKE West, and both of the external load balancers have different public IPs. So if you access the application via any external load balancer, you are able to get the same application state because the microservices running either in West cluster or Central cluster are all accessing the same database. So this means that the transaction that I did just now, which is on Jan 8 of $10, I should be able to see this transaction even if I access the application through the other external load balancer, that is this one. So let's go over here, and we are already logged in, and we can see the same transaction in this page as well. And you will see that both of them are having external IPs which are different. This one is the one which ends with 191 and this IP ends with 179. And we should be able to access the application by using the load balancer created by issue ingress gateway as well. So if I click on this, I should be able to log in. and I should see the same transaction. Same way, if I click on this external load balancer and log in, I should get the same result. Let's move on to our next subtask where we will force cross-cluster traffic routing. What we'll do is we will go to GKE central cluster, look for front-end deployment and edit the replicas to 0. So let's go to workloads, search for front-end deployment, look for the deployment which is in GKE central cluster, click on this, go to actions, scale, edit replicas, let's make them as 0. Let's go back over here, and now we see that in GKE central cluster the number of pods running for front-end deployment is 0. So now what we should test is we should click on the load balancer which is deployed in GKE central and see whether the application works or not. So let's go back to services and ingress and click on the load balancer which is in GKE central. Note that in this cluster we have made the deployment of front end to 0. So if I click over here, the application continues to work because the traffic is routed accordingly to the other cluster. So this validates our cross-cluster traffic routing. Let's move on to our next subtask, which is to observe distributed services using Anthos Service Mesh Dashboard. So let's go to Anthos and select Service Mesh and click on topology. So this is our service mesh. You can adjust the diagram to make it much more readable. You can click on the nodes to get more details as well. Let's go back to table view. Let's again click on front end. Over here you can see the inbound and outbound services. Also you can get information about requests, error rate, memory consumption, CPU consumption, etc. If we click on metrics, we will see the default dashboard that is automatically created for every service. Over here as well we can see the requests per second, the server and client error rates, latency, request size, response size, and memory consumption and CPU consumption. Now let's click on health and create an SLO. They want it to be latency based. Let's click on continue. Let's give the latency threshold as 350 milliseconds. Click on continue. Let's select the period length to calendar day and gold to 99.5%. Click on continue and create SLO. So our SLO is created. Notice that the SLO is already out of budget. In this case, you can also set up an alert so that you can investigate when this happens. Now let's move to the security section. Over here, you will notice that all service-to-service communication has a green lock. That's because all communication is encrypted over mutual TLS. Also, notice that an unknown source has an open red lock. That means that an unauthenticated agent is accessing the front-end service that is communicating over plain text. This unauthenticated agent is the browser. The table at the bottom of the page shows the HTTP operations that clients are able to perform on the front-end service. So this completes all of our subtasks. That's all for today. See you in the next video.